everyone. My name is Kate Burns, and welcome to the Purpose is a Decision podcast. I'm excited that you stopped by. And today I'd like to talk about something called the 10,000 hour. This is a concept that I first became acquainted with back in my network marketing years by reading the book The Outlier by Michael Gladwell. It's a book that I highly recommend you take a look at. It certainly has helped shaped me, I believe, into the entrepreneur that I have become today and the entrepreneur that I continue to aspire to be. Because, like I've mentioned in previous episodes, I am still on this journey, just like the next guy. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still developing. But last week, I told you very briefly the story of my $100,000 e-commerce disaster. And today I want to tell you why I'm grateful it happened. And that's because it added to my 10,000 hours. I've been in sales my entire adult life. I've probably logged about 15,000 hours at this point in sales. And every single failure, every single rock, every single a mountain, I'll say, that I've had to climb over, like that e-commerce mess, it all counts towards mastery. And the reason I bring that up is, when I first got started in network marketing years ago, I thought success was about talent. I'd watch, the highest income earners come across stage and think, oh my gosh, they've got something so, special. And many of them do. But really, as a reference point to myself, I thought that these guys are so special. I could never be like them. I could never have what they have. I could never accomplish what they've accomplished. And then I discovered Michael Gladwell's concept of the 10,000 hours of to mastery, 10,000 hours to mastery. And that changed everything. I went from looking at these guys, and I don't know if you've ever been there, where you are in a craft, you are in an industry where everybody literally feels like pie in the sky, right? Like you look at what they've accomplished and it almost seems inhuman at times. But the 10,000 hours to mastery brought it back to earth for me. It made it personal for me because the book essentially goes over the concept of what it takes to be great at anything. It doesn't matter whatever it is that you have set your sight on. I started out this podcast series by talking about, the Howard Thurman quote, which you'll hear me reference to that quite a bit, but the one that essentially teaches folks to connect with whatever it is that makes them come alive and really, really zone in on that and develop that craft and continue to build toward it. And so back in the day, when I would look at these guys and see all the accomplishments that they had, and I was so intimidated by their accomplishments, I thought that could never happen for me until I learned about the 10,000 hours. And I thought, okay, let me start the tracking. I started tracking my hours, my sales calls, the presentations, the rejections, the victories, all of it. All of it counts towards the 10,000 hours. And then I realized something powerful. I wasn't behind because I lacked talent. I wasn't behind because of my accent. I wasn't behind because of maybe the education that I didn't have that I thought they had. I wasn't behind because of any of those things. I was simply still accumulating my hours. So here's what that means for you. You're not failing, you're learning, and that's a good thing. You're not behind, you're building. That's also a good thing. You're not inadequate, you're incomplete, and that's okay. And that's exactly where you should be. How many hours have you actually put into your craft? Not thought about, not planned it, but actually done it. And I say this because we used to have, and I still actually use this with my staff today. This reference that I learned back in my network marketing days, called IPA and NEPA. What that is like you have the non-income producing activities and you have the income producing activities. And so you have the guy who's so analytical that spends a lot of time just like really like pondering over what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to present it. You have the very organized person that's like organizing, like color coding, like the files and like organizing all the emails and all of these things. And you have the guy who stresses over all of the above. Now, when I speak of the 10,000 hours, I'm speaking of someone spending hours actually doing the thing, not planning it, not worrying about it, not organizing, not preparing for it, but actually doing whatever it is that your craft is. So if you're frustrated after 100 hours of trying, imagine being frustrated in, say, kindergarten because you don't have a PhD. That's the kind of gap we're talking about here. So what the world will have you maybe think or know is that everything needs to be instant, right? We live in a microwave society. We live in a society where everybody expects it all right here, right now. They want you to believe in overnight success. So typically you'll see ads that essentially sell you the highlight reels without the behind the scene footage, without, the profit, without how do I say this? They show you the finished product without showing you the struggle. They essentially profit from your impatience, and they set an expectation that's literally impossible to attain. They'll show you someone's, 10 years and the call on day one. They'll package someone's 10,000 hours and sell it as their first attempt. And I'll tell you this, it's interesting. Back when I was in network marketing, they had this giant bonus that they put together, and my husband and I, decided to put our heads together, rallied a bunch of people who were also like-minded folks who were also driven with us. It was a team effort, and we worked really hard. I think it was a 3 month. Honestly, don't even remember all the specifics. It's been a minute, but at the end of it, we ended up walking across the stage back then with a $142,000 bonus. And what was interesting is, like, after that, there's obviously a bunch of chatter on social media, a bunch of conversations, and people want to highlight you and brag on your story. But what was funny to me is the stuff that people would say about my story specifically. They would essentially act as if I just rolled out of bed and, like, in 3 months I was able to accomplish this. That was far from the truth. There were so many moments of struggles that led to that. There were so many stories of rejections. I mean, I could literally spit on this podcast and talk to you for hours upon hours of all the heartbreaks, of all the things that, all the disappointments, all the broken relationships, all the things that happened along the way. Yet it feels so rewarding, right? To sit there and watch people talk about how this girl came and she set the world on fire, and she just walked the stage, and made $142,000 in like 3 months. No, that wasn't the real story. So be careful when, people are setting expectations on you that are simply not reality, right? Napoleon Hill in The Law of Success talks about patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. And I'll repeat that again. Patience, persistence, perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Think about that. Perspiration, that's ours. That's showing up when the butterflies have left. All of that has faded. Like I mentioned in last episode, there's always the time when, the lights are not on, when the people are no longer there, and you're basically left alone to face the music. Think of what that does for you. And if you're not prepared for those moments and you embark on whatever the journey is, it could be you bettering your career. It could be you reinventing yourself. It doesn't really matter what the path is, but educating your expectations is part of it, right? You can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. That's a Brene Brown quote. Every hour you log towards your 10,000 hours is choosing courage over comfort. Tony Robbins says repetition is the mother of skill. Not talent, not luck, but repetition. Hours upon hours upon hours. So what's the real cost of mastery? Let me get real. I mentioned on last episode, we currently have 22 doors, in a rental game. And, while I'm still an infant in this game, I mean, I know there's people who have hundreds upon hundreds of doors, and I still have so much to learn from them. The reality of it is, the first one, it's actually hard for me to talk about how much it took for us to get the first door, right? The first house that we actually purchased, we had to do it with creative financing because as entrepreneurs, the harsh reality of it is like you don't have the shiny W-2 to be able to provide when you're going for a loan. So a lot of lenders are not going to give you the time of day because you don't have that. And when you do have the 1099, like the rest of us. I've been an entrepreneur again for close to a couple decades at this point. But up to then, they basically looked at me and my stats as unproven, right? So my husband and I had gone to lenders after lender after lender, and we simply did not have enough of all the requirements to be able to traditionally qualify. So we ended up purchasing our first house on a seller finance deal. And that's kind of how we were introduced to home ownership, right? That was our home. That's still where we live to this day. And since then we've gone on to refinancing and all of that. But then we got this podcast, Loopholes of Real Estate, I believe is what it was. And in this, the gentleman, I don't even know who the author is. It's been a long time since I've listened to it. But he basically started breaking down the real estate strategies on, how you can go from, if you're within this particular pocket of real estate investing, which there are so many different pockets, right? Choose your flavor. But so he taught us how to go from one door to two and then on forward. So from there, we were able to, I believe it was 3 years later, we were able to invest in our first fourplex, which I also mentioned. I don't know whether I mentioned that one actually. That was a different recording that I was doing. So anyway, but that was our very first investment property. That was a fourplex being built. And I'm like, this is so scary. Like, oh my gosh, what if? You always have all these what ifs. And I'm so thankful that we move forward with that. And we're able to get a construction loan. And we were able to have enough cash. We had saved enough money from our regular hustle that we were able to put 25% down to purchase the very first ever multifamily deal that we had. Now, people will look at that and like act as if it like just happened overnight. But we had to be real creative. When you don't have the resources, you get resourceful. I think it's Russell Brunson who said that in his course I attended a few weeks back. But like the reality of it is that the rejection is real. All those times that we applied for loans and just kind of felt like home ownership was not going to be for us. And today we have 22 people, 22 different families that pay rent to us. And so understanding that for whatever path it is that you enter, just be into it, prepared to pay your dues. Today, I feel like I can piece together a deal presented to me in like 10 minutes. Why? Because I've looked at so many deals. I know interest rates are, kind of madness right now. Hopefully they get better here soon. But we've gone on to having, multi-fam after multi-fam and some single families and some, and continuing to build, continuing to grow. I still haven't arrived, right? My kids, you heard that before. My kids remind me that pressure is a privilege, but you know what else is a privilege? Having accumulated enough hours that pressure becomes familiar. That is a real privilege right there. Jim Rohn says, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And I mean every day. That's how hours are accumulated, right? So at the end of the day, the 10,000 hours isn't about enthusiasm. It's not about, excitement. It's about endurance. It's about being the ant that I talked about in the previous episode that finds a way over, under, around, and through even sometimes. But at the end of the day, practice isn't the thing you do once. It's the thing you do that makes you good. It's not the thing you do once and then you're good. You keep doing it and doing it and doing it over and over again. And then that's how you get better at it. But guess what? You are going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable at first. It doesn't matter what the space is. You're going to suck at first. You will suck until you don't. That's just the reality of it. I tell you, this podcasting thing has been real humbling for me, if I'm being honest with you. It's been, for those who know me personally, who are super close to me, that it doesn't come naturally for me to, step in and have these types of conversations with the world. But I chose to do it. And I too have had to remind myself that I need to clock in my 10,000 hours, that I need to continue to stay on this path even when I don't feel like it, that I need to continue to grow and develop and master what it is that I still don't know where this is going to lead, but that's okay, right? Because at the end of the day, They want you to believe you're not special enough. They want you to believe that you need their special, formula. You need this shortcut, like how to get this done in 3 days, how to lose 30 pounds in, 15 minutes. I'm exaggerating. Not really, because we live in a microwave society that kind of puts the expectation on you and for you that things are going to happen overnight. Here's the truth that they won't tell you. Every expert was once a disaster. Every master was once a mess. The only difference is they kept logging hours after everyone else quit. That's the only difference. They can't sell you hours. They can only sell you hope. But hope without hours is just the wish, right? So I'm not asking you to commit 10,000 hours today. That would be crazy, overwhelming, wild, nuts, impossible, right? I'm asking you to commit to the next 100 hours. Document them, track them, honor them. Whether it's building your business, perfecting your craft, learning that skill, having those hard conversations none of us want to have. 100 hours, that's roughly an hour a day for 3 months. I believe anybody can do that. Les Brown says this: you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. I'll say that again. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So you're not patient enough? Everyone's impatient. Without commitment, you'll never start. Without consistency, you'll never finish. That's just the reality of it. These aren't just quotes that sound nice. These are realities from people who have logged their 10,000 hours in one craft or another, while others were looking for shortcuts. Remember last week when I talked about expecting the rock, about operating with the ant mentality? Here's what I didn't tell you. Every rock you encounter is adding to your hours. Every tunnel you dig, every climb you make, it's all about compound interest on your expertise. That $100,000 loss, it bought me probably about 1,000 hours of education compressed into 12 months. Expensive? You bet it is. Valuable? Absolutely. I'll never fall for that again, right? So here's my question for you. The same one I asked last time, but with new context. What are you willing to log 10,000 hours for? I do believe finding something that makes you come alive is absolutely critical. If you're going to log 10,000 hours, try to find something that is going to be so pulling for you that when things get tough, you can stick through it. When the hard moments, when the rock, figuratively, when the rock is going to present itself, you're not going to tuck tail and run. So what is that thing going to be for you? What will you log your 10,000 hours? And if you're a student, school better be it right now, right? I've mentioned my kids being in sports. And, I remember telling my son this when he was in high school in wrestling. It's like, dude, like, if you don't log your 10,000, the guy, the varsity guy that you're going up against, it really will boil down to who's logged the most hours. Sometimes it's not about who's the strongest, who's the fastest, or any of that. It's about who has committed to their craft, who showed up to practice with a good attitude when they didn't feel like it, right? Who continues to show up over and over and deals with the suck? Because the reality of it is there's going to be hard moments. It's going to suck. I kind of have this thing about me, I like to do very physically challenging things. And this is a personal thing for myself because I just love the feeling of being terrified of a thing and taking that thing and owning it. And I just love that. It just like, most people are like, my husband looks at me like, who wants to run this many miles? Why would you want to set out to go on this mountain and like climb, God knows, like how many feet and have obstacle courses along the way and climbing things and throwing things and pushing against things. But you know what? It sucks, but it's awesome. Listen, I, you may not want to do that particular thing, but find something that represents that for you. Success is not found in your comfort zone. That much we know. So don't look for something necessarily that that you're just interested in, that sounds cool. But what are you willing to show up for when the mood has left you, when the butterflies have died, when the crowd is gone home, when the lights have dimmed? What's that thing for you? Drop in the comments. Let us know. I would love to know what you're building. I would love to know how many hours you think you've already logged. That would be cool. And if you don't know, I invite you to start logging today. I invite you to start tracking today. And I mean all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the really ugly, all of it. Because at the end of the day, someone needs what you'll become after your 10,000 hours. Someone is waiting for the master you're becoming. Don't rob them of that gift because you quit at hour 500 or at hour 100. Put in your 10,000 hours because at the end of the day, purpose is a decision. It's not discovered at 10,000 hours. It's decided at hour 1 and proven through hour 2 all the way to 999. That's what purpose is, a decision, not a destination. You don't find your purpose. You log hours towards it until it becomes undeniable. Until next time you look at where you next time you're faced with the situation, you look back at how far you've come and you're like, oh my gosh, I've done that. I did that thing. And I'm on the other side of it. And like sometimes I'm in rough spaces in my life, in my journey, be it with my kids, my husband, my family. I mean, listen, I lead a very busy life. And sometimes I face some mountains that just cause me to stop and go, I can't wait to like think back on this, like fast forward a year from now. Right now, I'm in the suck. Right now, it really, really sucks. But later, I'm just excited to have the opportunity to look back and take notes from myself, from the hard moments, from the disappointing moments, because I do not believe that anything happens to us just because. I believe God put certain things on our path for a reason. I believe He gives us the opportunity to go through our own refiner's fire. That's how diamonds are made, right? You've probably heard that before. And so, yeah, just let me know in the comments. What are you going to log your 10,000 hours in? I'm excited to hear your journey. I'm excited to see what comes of it. And until next time, this is Kate Burns reminding you your hours count. So make them count because purpose is a decision.